Hello there, it is Jo from Minerva and we are continuing our Overlocker series. Today is episode 4 and we're going to take a look at some common sewing techniques that you might do on your normal sewing machine but you could switch out to use with your Overlocker. It's sometimes really effective, it's a little bit quicker and sometimes a little bit easier. Today we're going to take a look at gathering stitches, so using your overlocker to make a gathered stitch, which is particularly good if you've got a huge amount of gathering to do. We're going to look at making really small narrow straps, and we're also going to take a look at putting a neckband on. All things you might have done on your sewing machine, but let's see if they can be more effective on your overlocker. First up, we're going to take a look at gathering a piece of fabric. I've got a piece of viscose challis, so I'm going to have the normal foot on my overlocker and I'll show you the machine setup. You will need 2 needles so that you get your gathering stitch with the 2 lines of running stitch running through it. I've changed the threads on mine just so that I can show you a little bit of the detail. So I've got a red thread in the left needle, a green thread in the right needle, and just white overlocker threads on the loopers. I've got everything set to 4 because that's sort of the standard for my machine to have a normal overlocking stitch. So I'm going to show you how to change those to achieve the gathering, but we won't be changing them too much because what you really need to change when you make a gathering stitch is the width, length and the differential feed. If you don't understand what the differential feed is, you might want to go back to episode 1 and refresh a little bit of knowledge, because this is the main part of the sewing process that turns this fabric into a gathered edge. So at the moment, the differential feed is on 1, and that means the front and the back feed dogs on your machine are working at a 1-to-1 ratio, so they're moving at the same rate. If we change this up, it will move the front dogs faster. And to get a gather, you need to have it on 2. And that will mean that it's taking your fabric through really, really fast. And so the stitches will just keep sewing even though the fabric is running through the machine at a really quick rate. And that's what creates the gather. You'll need to do some experimenting, but you might need to change your stitch length and your stitch width. Mine works really well on stitch length 3. Stitch width 5, but as you test you might want to change those 2 as well. I'm going to keep everything on tension 4. I know I get a good overlock with that, with my upper looper and lower looper, and I'm just going to keep this one on 4. These are my needle dials. I'm going to put my fabric under the foot and sew. So really the only thing that I've changed is my differential feed, and I'm going to have this fabric moving really quickly. Because it moves really quickly, it feels a little bit uncontrollable, but you don't want to be pulling or trying to manipulate the fabric. You need it just to go through on its own. And because the diff is on 2, it's going through twice as fast as it normally would, and that's how you get this gather. The edge is overlocked and all your gathering is quite close to the edge, so you might maybe need to change your seam allowance if you're joining this piece to another piece. If you need to adjust your gathers because this gather doesn't quite fit onto your next piece in terms of construction, then you need to find those left and right needle threads, and I did mine in a different colour. So here are my left and right needle threads. The white overloopers are on the back, and now I can adjust the gathers if I want to make them more intense in a particular place, or I need to adjust the overall length of the gathers. And that is how you work the gathering stitch. Incidentally, because we're talking about these threads are also instrumental in undoing overlocking stitches. So it's really tempting if you need to unpick overlocking, and it's not a lot of fun unpicking overlocking. It's really tempting to split all of these overlock stitches and think, well, that'll make it all come undone, but it doesn't. Those are just looping over the raw edge. You need to do what I just did, collect up the right and left needle threads, and if you pull those out of your sewing, then your overlocking will just come undone. So that is how you undo overlocking. If you have a gathering foot, this is a brother gathering foot, you can also add your gathering to a flat piece, so you can do everything in one pass. I'm not going to show you this today because it's quite specific to my machine. You might not have one. So if you need to look for gathering on a specific overlocker, you might need to look up that video for your machine type. If you've ever tried to make spaghetti straps, you know it's really difficult to turn that strap out. You've got to sew really close to the edge so you don't have lots of seam allowance, making a bulk inside the little tube. So I'm going to show you how to make little straps on an overlocker. It's particularly good for making roller loops, so little loops. If you need lots and lots and lots of them, you can make one string of this spaghetti strap and then chop it into little bits to make your little loops, and you can put them all in a row. To make a spaghetti strap, you'll have your, or roller loops, you'll have your thin piece of fabric, and you know that if you folded that in half and sewed it on the machine, you could get a really nice slim spaghetti strap, but then you've got the issue of trying to turn it inside out. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a chain that's the length of the spaghetti strap and a little bit more. All my settings are back to 4, my diff feed is on 1, length 3, width 5, so whatever gives for your machine the best overlock stitch. Okay, this is my long chain that I've just made. And now I'm going to bring that chain to the front. Fold my spaghetti strap in half. The chain to run down the centre of the strap. I'm going to take off the blade because I don't want to cut off anymore. I'm already on quite a small margin. Fold over the strap. And so inside my strap is the chain. You need to make sure the chain is really in the centre because you don't want to catch it in the stitches. You can actually feel it. So you've got the chain from where you ended, but you've got the chain that runs all inside the centre of the strap, and it takes a little bit of working on the end just to make sure that it gets started and the fabric goes right in, and then you pull on the chain and it will turn the strap inside out. And once you've got it going, you can pull the strap back through, and if you pull it too quickly it will all bunch up, so you just need to be really gentle with it, holding the end. When the end comes out, you can now hold that. You don't need to rely on the chain, but don't be tempted now to hold it down here and pull it because it will all just rock up at the end. Just keep doing that gentle movement of turning it gradually inside out. And this is your really small spaghetti strap, or indeed lots of roller loops. Finally, I'd like to show you how to put a neckband on using the correct seam allowance and completely use your overlocker. I've been making the Rio Ringer t-shirt as I've been sewing little samples for these overlocker episodes, and I'm at the stage now where really that t-shirt is finished apart from putting on the neckband. I'm going to show you how to do that and making sure that you get a really smooth circular shape. The method I'm going to show you is called a clip method, and it's for sewing something continuous, so a neckband, a hem that goes all the way around, and you want to get a good sort of clean finish on the end. Or if you were sewing something flat like a placemat, something like a round placemat, and you wanted to have your overlocking to meet back at the very end. So the seam allowance for this neckband is 1.5 centimeters or 5/8. So I'm going to mark on here, and then I'm going to take out about 5 centimeters. Still keep that 1.5 centimeter seam allowance. And it's called the clip method because I'm going to clip that section out. This will mean that I can use my cutting blade to cut off the excess for my seam allowance, but when I get back round I won't have a chunky lump at the back, and I'll show you how it works against the foot on the machine. Once you've cut out that shape, it's about the length of your foot, you can then line up the new cut edge that you made with the edge of your blade. And then as you sew, you will be cutting off the rest of this neckband. So we've cut off the beginning and the end essentially, and now we're going to be trimming the end as we sew. I'm going to be running my fabric up against the mark. Got more pins in than I would usually have, and I don't normally have them horizontal like this, but I just need to hold it all stable so that I can show you. I'm easing out the ripples. And as we get back round to this piece that we've cut, our continuation of that trimming off will then land into that cutout we made at the start. And then the beginning and end of your overlocking is pretty seamless. You don't have quite a lumpy chunk. You've taken the trim off and it's joined back in with where you started. And that's how you sew in a continuous loop. So there's my neckband on. Really smooth, pressed it out. It's really smooth at the back. I haven't got a sort of chunky lump where all the overlocking has overlapped. This is the Rio Ringer t-shirt, and I made it from different bits of episodes. So it's got, instead of the Rio Ringer bands, it's got mock hem bands on the sleeves and the hem. The continuous neckband application with the overlocker, and you could also flat lock this t-shirt together. I hope some of those things will help you along in your sewing, especially if you've got an overlocker and you're just using it for sewing raw edges. You might have seen today something that you'd really like to try, or something that's been a bit of an epiphany moment where you think, oh, that's so much easier than the way that I've been doing it. I hope that's what these videos bring to you. If you've made anything, we would love to see it. So do make an account with Minerva, share your makes, take some photos, give a little description and inspire other Minerva makers. Thank you very much for watching. Do come back for our next episode, which is a few advanced techniques.